So the preseason game finishes Tottenham 1, Arsenal 0. I thought Tottenham were very good, very well organised, very strong first half performance, and in the second half they were defensively secure. You could see Thomas Frank setting them up much better defensively than Ange. I thought the press was there, the energy was there, and with Kudus and Odebert, I thought there was threat from the wings from Tottenham. I thought Kudus was causing Lewis Skelly some problems, and I think if I was a Tottenham fan, I'd be happy with a well-coached performance. And we're going to talk about Thomas Frank. I want to talk about Arsenal. Max Dowman, I think, was your best player today. 15. When he gets the ball, he looks like he's going to make things happen. Exciting player. But other than that, Arsenal were not exciting. Arsenal were very passive, very predictable. I thought Odegaard was one of the better players today. I think he tried to make things happen. I thought Saliba was good. I thought Dowman was good. But Gyökeres comes on. I don't even know if he passed him the ball. It was very same old Arsenal. Set pieces, predictability. Tottenham defended well. And I felt like Arsenal were never going to score that game. I felt like Arsenal were going to score that game. And, Arsenal definitely need a left winger. I thought Martinelli just isn't doing enough. But also, does Arteta need to adapt the way he attacks? Does Arteta need to be more attacking minded? We'll talk about that. But we're first of all mostly going to talk about Spurs. We're going to talk about the game, what we learned from the game. I want to talk mostly about Spurs and Thomas Frank. And then I want to get into Arsenal, what Arsenal need, the takeaways, who was good, give my thoughts on Arsenal, what Spurs need. We'll talk about at the end what I think both players need and both teams need in the transfer market. We're going to start by talking about Spurs. But yeah, let me know your thoughts down below on the game. But yeah, these were the lineups going into it. I think it was what Arsenal would see as their strongest lineup, bar probably Gyökeres coming in at striker, and of course Subamendi in for Norgard, and obviously Calafiore in for Kivior. So there's 3 players off what Arsenal's strongest 11 is, and you could probably say the same about Tottenham. I think Solanke would go in for Richarlison. I think Maddison or Kulusevski, if fit, would go in the 10, and Bergvall would swap with one of the deeper players. And I think while Jets was great, Udogie would probably come in there as well. So both teams were very, very strong going into this game. But for me, Tottenham were the better side. I think Arsenal grew into the game more in the second half and were better in the second half, got on the ball more. But I felt Tottenham just defended well and were organised. Tottenham did what they needed to do in the first half. They forced a mistake out of Lewis Skelly. You can argue it's a foul. Other refs would have given a foul for that, but look, it is what it is. And Tottenham probably deserved to be 1-up at halftime. I thought they did well. So yeah, I think Sarr's been very good in pre-season. So let's talk about it. So I thought Tottenham were more aggressive. I thought Tottenham were more energetic. I felt that they were looking to win the ball high, force Arsenal into errors. I thought Kudus was really causing Miles Lewis-Skelly some issues. And Miles Lewis-Skelly, I think, is a very good player. But Kudus was really causing him some issues physically. And I always felt Lewis-Skelly, for his age, is really good phically. And you could see Thomas Frank's high press. You could see that when Spurs did give the ball away, under Ange, every time Spurs gave the ball away, they were vulnerable. Under Thomas Frank, I felt that when Spurs gave the ball away, they were compact, they made it difficult for Arsenal, and that's why Arsenal, I think, struggled. I also noted that Tottenham looked a lot better from set pieces, a lot more threatening. They didn't even bring on Vuskovic, who's basically like an NBA player in the air, who's like the biggest set piece monster ever. But I thought that Tottenham looked good in the set pieces, both defensively going forward. Arsenal have often targeted Tottenham the last 2 seasons on Vicario, on set pieces, and there's been a lot of games where Arsenal play Spurs, and it's been set pieces which got Arsenal those 3 points. And Arsenal had a lot of set pieces today, and I could see a clear improvement with Tottenham there. And I think Arsenal grew into the second half and looked physically better. But Tottenham was so physically good in the first half, they looked more up for it. And I even felt when Arsenal played Newcastle in the first 20 minutes, Newcastle were more up for it. That's something that's got to be considered. Of course, Arsenal don't have Madueke in yet. Gyökeres has only just come in, didn't really get the ball. I'm sure Eze will be signed, but I do look at Arsenal and they need a left winger, they need a transition threat. We're going to talk about that later on, but we've got to talk about Thomas Frank. So I was talking to Sonny the other day, and he said something along the lines of Thomas Frank will be Spurs' signing of the season, or Spurs have already got the signing of the season in Thomas Frank. And I was like, yeah, look, he's a very good manager. But like the more and more I think about it, he's probably right. I think the signing of the season could be Thomas Frank to Tottenham. I think you need more. You've only got Kudus in. Gibbs-White is not happening, which is a big blow. But I think Thomas Frank could be signing of the season for Tottenham. Now, this is, of course, one game. I didn't watch your preseason games. Was it Luton and Wigan or something? I didn't really follow those games so much. But off this game, and I'm basing off this game against Premier League opposition against Arsenal, it's a big game. It's a preseason friendly, but when you play Arsenal in a preseason friendly, it's not a friendly, is it? And so I'm basing it off this game, and I'm not going off what, like, obviously you can't just go off one preseason friendly and say Thomas Frank's going to win the league. It'd be ridiculous to say that. But I think Thomas Frank could be signing of the season. I've obviously done videos on Thomas Frank when Tottenham signed Thomas Frank. I rate him highly. I think he's a fantastic manager. But I just felt that Tottenham looked really structured, looked really well organised under Thomas Frank. When they gave the ball away, they weren't vulnerable. I thought that they were pressing well. I thought they were pushing Arsenal well. I thought they were causing issues. And I think if Spurs can get the upgrades in they need, I think Thomas Frank will improve them. I think there was good pressing. I think there was good compactness. I think there was good energy levels from Tottenham. I think the physicality was there from Tottenham. I think build-up was all right. I still think you need a progressive six in build-up, but I do have to say that I thought Sarr and Bentancur both played well together and complemented each other well today. And I think Sarr is inconsistent because he's so young, but I think if you don't see the quality in Sarr, watch him. Sarr has a lot of quality, but he's sometimes inconsistent, and sometimes Spurs don't always get the best out of him, but there's the quality there in Sarr. Bentancur, we know how good he could be pre-ACL. He looked very good today, and Bentancur was very good for Tottenham if you look at the late run in the Europa League. I thought Bentancur and Sarr did well. I think Basuma's the one you want to move on, but I still think you probably need a progressive six. That's an area for improving. But with Thomas Frank, you know we can maximise players. You look at Ivan Toney, you look at Vissa, you look at Mbumo. And I felt that with players like Odebert and Kudus, that are good ball carriers, they're the technical players, they're the Thomas Frank kind of players, very good ball carriers. And I thought they made a massive difference today. I thought the wings was big. I'm going to talk about the wings. But I think if Tottenham get a proper progressive six, a proper striker, because Solanke isn't fit at the moment to just rotate with Solanke, someone can give a bit of competition on the left. I think that Tottenham could be good next season because I think that Thomas Frank will organise them. He'll bring the shape, he'll bring the structure, he'll bring the pressing, and he can do what he can and build up. But Daniel Levy would have to follow through and do something in the window. I think with you missing out Morgan Gibbs-White, then I'm surely, now that saga's over, surely you've got the money, you're going to act on something quick. It'll be interesting to see. You've been linked to El Kudus, who I did do a video on him and saying he was Leicester's best player for me, but he is inconsistent. We will talk about that if you do advance on any signings. There is some rumours of João Palhinha as well, so we will talk about that. But I think Tottenham, they still lack quality in a lot of positions. I still feel that, there was a drop-off when Kudus came off. I think Kudus and Odebert showed quality, but I still think Tottenham need more quality in a lot of areas. But I think Thomas Frank very much could be signing of the season. And the quality for me for Tottenham, I thought Spence did well. I think Sarr did well. But the quality for me came on the wings. Kudus' ability 1v1 was giving Arsenal problems. I thought Kudus was cooking at times. His ability when he gets the ball to dribble, but he doesn't give the ball away. Even if his dribbling doesn't go anywhere, he at least doesn't give the ball away because he can hold on to the ball. You can't push him off the ball, and he can help Tottenham sustain pressure in the final third. Brennan Johnson could get the ball dribble, get tackled, and it's a turnover, and all of a sudden the opposition have a chance against Tottenham. Whereas the Kudus and Odebert, because they keep the ball well when they dribble, Spurs are conceding less turnovers in that sense. And I think that the directness and unpredictability that Odebert and Kudus brought to Tottenham, the ball carrying, something that Thomas Frank will really like. It helped Tottenham get the ball up the pitch. It helped Tottenham sustain attacks. And these are wingers that could hold width if you want to hold width, but they can drive inside. They can press. There is questions over Kudus' work rate, but he's looked good from what I've seen so far. And I think that the pairing looked dangerous. And I think Kulusevski is probably Tottenham's best player at getting the ball and driving with it. And I still think he's better centrally than out wide. And obviously he's injured, and that's a big blow right now. But I think Tottenham having those options through Kudus and Odebert is big. So yeah, let's talk about where I believe Tottenham have improved. Set pieces. I also thought they were targeting Raya a little bit from set pieces, which is what Arsenal used to do by targeting Vicario. I thought the backline was organised. I thought they looked better in transition. I think Jed Spence had energy. I think he was good 1v1. I think Udogie is going to have a big season, but I also thought Jed Spence was particularly impressive. I think Bentancur and Sarr, I thought the midfield balance worked well. I think they did well. But of course, I still think Tottenham would look at an Adam Water team being ideal for them. Maino would be a good option for them, of course. You're not getting Maino. Let's talk about Arsenal. I spent 9 minutes talking about Tottenham. I do want to talk about Arsenal because while Arsenal were incredibly boring, there is talking points. So first of all, any Arsenal fans watching, I've seen Arsenal fans, one Arsenal fan in particular, talking about corruption, the ref having an Arsenal agenda, and the PGMOL. This is a friendly in Hong Kong. The PGMOL is not involved. The refs are not being corrupt against Arsenal in a pre-season friendly, okay? This is a pre-season friendly. Oh my God, Man United could have got out 5 fouls against Bournemouth that we didn't get. Are we sitting here saying PGMOL, corruption, the refs have agenda against United? No, the refs are just crap. When you watch a lot of football, you realise the refs are just crap no matter the team. So, first of all, it wasn't corruption. It wasn't a ref agenda. You can argue it was a foul on Lewis Skelly. I think I think VAR could have overturned that had it happened in the Premier League game. But the refs aren't going at Arsenal in a preseason game. Okay, look, you've not had good luck with refs. They did you over a few times in the league, but they're not going to be screwing Arsenal over in a preseason friendly versus Tottenham, are they? Anyway, I thought Arsenal was slow and cautious. I thought you started slow, and I felt the Spurs' defensive organisation, Arsenal struggled to break. Gyökeres came on. You didn't really do much for him. The mad thing is, the way you were playing in the first 45 minutes would have actually suited Gyökeres quite well with the long ball over the top. Max Dowman came on. All of a sudden, a player that was getting the ball, keeping the ball, could he go left, could he go right, driving with the ball, bringing some unpredictability. I thought Max Dowman was your brightest player. Martinelli struggled to make an impact. You need a layout-type winger. I'm saying this now, and it's going to be really unpopular. Garnacho would improve you on the left wing. I'm not even lying. When I look at transition, when I look at threat, what you need. If you can't afford Eze, if you can't afford Leao, I think Garnacho would improve you. I don't think your left side is good enough. I thought Martinelli was incredibly good in 22-23, but you haven't got a transition threat. You haven't got a raw, direct player that wants to make something happen. It's passive. I thought Marino and Rice were poor. They failed to really get involved in the game as well. I thought Odegaard was one of the better players, but I felt that Arsenal grew into the second half. They had a lot of the ball. I thought Saliba was good. Saliba was excellent. I think defensively you were really good. But again, it's Arsenal. Good defensively, good in build-up, good football, good control. You get to the final third, and it's very set-piece ball into the box, predictable. And I think that's something that new signings are going to help with, but that's something you got to work with. I thought Lewis Skelly has struggled a bit this preseason. I don't want to target Lewis Skelly because I think he gets unfair media scrutiny, and I think Lewis Skelly is a fantastic player. I rate him highly, but you've also got to remember he's so young, so he is going to have bad games, and that is normal. But I felt that he was targeted a little bit, dispossessing him when he comes into the midfield. Kudus was pulling him a little bit, but it's normal for players to have the odd game where it isn't their best game. But I think, if Calafiori can stay fit, then there's two good options there. I thought Marino just didn't get involved. He doesn't get involved on the ball enough. I thought Arsenal looked more threatening in the second half, but you just once again lack final third sharpness. Look, Madueke will help with his directness. You need a guy like that. Eze, I think, would massively help. Gyökeres, if you can get him involved, he can make things happen. He didn't really touch the ball, and Arsenal need to be more creative. So I'm obviously aware that this isn't really, none of Arsenal's new signings are really involved, bar when Subamende came on. So, of course, it's going to be similar to last season, considering where were the new signings on the pitch. But Arteta hasn't made any adaptations in that sense, and maybe that's an area for concern. Continue on into Tottenham. I still think Tottenham need a progressive six who can improve the tempo, play the line-breaking passes. I thought Richarlison was shocking, to be honest. How he missed that, I don't know. Ineffective. I think you need Visser. I think you need someone like, if you can't get Gibbs White or Eze, like an Njai of Everton. I think you need an Adam Wharton, and I think Tottenham would be very good. But I felt that Kulusevski and Maddison was particularly missing that first half, their presence there. I think Bergvall was all right. He was giving away a few fouls. I think he was all right. I believe Bergvall's a quality player, just maybe needs some time after his injury to get back to scratch. But Thomas Frank's structure was there. Thomas Frank could be the signing of the summer, but he definitely needs 2 or 3 signings. But anyway, my conclusion is I felt that this was a very scripted Arsenal game from last season with the lack of spark on the left, and Arsenal need to address that. I thought Tottenham were really good physically in the first half. I thought the game was particularly boring, to be honest, but I think there was good signs for Tottenham. I think Arsenal more of the same. I think Arsenal were good, but they need that spark on the left. Thank you for watching. Bye.